In today's video, we're taking a look at the latest NHL trade rumors for the offseason. Today, we're looking at teams like the Boston Bruins and Jeremy Swayman. Could they move on from the star goaltender who signed a big contract this past year, but didn't have a great year living up to the hype? Plus, Erik Karlsson and Pittsburgh could be heading for a divorce. We'll look at some reports suggesting that the star blue liner could be on the move to another team. And of course, Elias Pettersson, comments from his agent certainly make it seem like there's a decent chance the star centerman could be traded this offseason as well. Plus, we have all kinds of playoff updates, including some results, some recaps, some injury updates, and what's on the schedule tonight, and some prospect news around the league coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we got lots to talk about here in today's video. A couple quick prospect updates, and we're going to talk about the playoffs, followed by some offseason trade talk. First up tonight, we got San Jose Sharks top prospect, or arguably one of their top prospects, if not the top guy right now, Sam Dickinson of the London Knights, was just named OHL Defenseman of the Year. Of course, Dickinson had a real solid year with the Knights, went on to play with Team Canada, the World Juniors, and just overall had a real solid draft plus one season. I'm sure the Sharks are quite happy to see what his development has been like and when he'll possibly be turning pro. I'm not sure if that's going to be next year or maybe the year after. We'll have to wait and see. But Dickinson had a real solid year and is the OHL defenseman of the season. We also know that Ottawa Senators top prospect Carter Yakimchuk, who was also taken in that same draft as Dickinson last summer, pretty close together. Yakimchuk was just a couple picks ahead. The big right shot defenseman who almost made the Sens team at a training camp this year, certainly made it difficult for them to make a decision. At least was sent back to junior. His junior team, the Calgary Hitmen, were eliminated from the Western Hockey League playoffs last night, and the expectation is that he will join the Senators here. I've seen some reports earlier, but it was only from fans, so it's hard to gauge exactly how legit it is. It could be just people messing around, but either way, even if it is, I do expect that he will be joining the team. But there was reports earlier saying that he was on a plane leaving Calgary heading to Ottawa, and you know what? He could have been. I mean, the Senators did say that when his season was over, they would likely have him join the team. Obviously, they still seemed reluctant that they would play him. I think if for any reason they ended up in a situation where they had injuries, for sure they would consider it. And of course, if they end up in a situation where it's like a do or die game, down 3-0 or something like that, then you know what, maybe they give the kid a one game experience shot. You just never know. Sometimes you gotta try what you can. But Yakimchuk is expected to join the Sens after a pretty good junior season as well. I think a lot of people focus on his point totals. He had a pretty good season that way, but overall, I think he was really focusing on his two-way game and defending. So overall, I think Ottawa's pretty happy with what he's done this year. And another prospect in Pittsburgh, Tanner Howe, of course, another Western Hockey League kid, 19 years old, also played with Calgary this year as well. Has a pretty serious injury on his hands. He had to have ACL reconstructive surgery. He was a 2024 draft selection as well. Got to play for Team Canada, World Juniors, but he's looking at a 9-month recovery. So not only is his season over now, but he's likely going to be late starting next year. I mean, that probably puts him, around December, January, depending on how everything goes. Maybe even a little later if there's any hiccups along the way. So certainly Penguins prospect Tanner Howe's got a long recovery ahead of him. So we certainly want to wish him the best and hope everything turns out that he doesn't have any issues continuing his career, because that is a pretty serious injury. As I mentioned, we have lots to talk about when it comes to the Stanley Cup playoffs. Lots of very fun action last night. We had the highlight of the night was definitely the return after 3 years of Gabriel Landeskog. The Avalanche captain was in the starting lineup. Ball Arena was electric, chanting his name, going crazy. It was quite the story. He's only, surprisingly though, there's been other captains that have been out longer than him when it comes to missing time and coming back after a long stretch like that. But it was only a couple of players back during World War II. So outside of being away for 3 or 4 years because of war, he's by far the longest, player to be out like that and return due to a serious injury. So certainly happy to see that the recovery process has, been fulfilled, that he's able to get back and play. I hope that he doesn't have any setbacks and that he can continue doing so. Unfortunately for the Avalanche, they did drop last night's game 2-1 in overtime with Tyler Seguin picking up the overtime winner. The Avalanche I'd say they played a pretty good game overall. I mean, obviously it was a 1-1 game going to overtime, but They could have had a few players play a little bit better. I think they probably could have had a better outcome. But after a good start in a 1-0 series lead, they now find themselves behind the 8-ball 2-1. The Battle of Florida continues tonight. Actually should be ready to drop the puck here just about any time as I record this video right now. Of course, Florida came out and stomped on Tampa in the first game. I would suspect a big response from the Lightning tonight. It's a very battle-tested veteran group over there who's won multiple times before. The Panthers and the Lightning, probably the two most battle-tested teams in the Eastern Conference over the last 4 to 5 seasons. So we'll see what happens here tonight. Florida, of course, enjoys being the bad guys on the road. I think they really thrive on that, so it's not going to bother them at all being in Tampa's arena, and we'll see if it'll go 1-1 or 2-0 tonight. Of course, Winnipeg-St. Louis goes to Game 3 tonight as well. The scene shifts now to St. Louis with the Jets taking a 2-0 series lead. They've been, obviously the first game was, the score doesn't to me indicate how close it actually was. The second game was a little closer, but we'll see if the Blues can claw their way back in or if the Jets will take a stranglehold. Same goes for the Battle of Ontario tonight. Ottawa and Toronto doing battle in Game 3. That scene shifts now to Ottawa for the second part of that series. Of course, Toronto wins both their home games at the Scotiabank Arena. Now can Ottawa match that and show some better playing here at home at the Canadian Tire Centre? It's their first playoff game since 2017, so obviously it's been a long time. Matt Pacioretty is expected to be in the lineup tonight for the Toronto Maple Leafs, with Nick Robertson coming out. To the best of my knowledge as of right now, the game is about half an hour away from starting. I believe the Sens have the same lineup as Game 2. We're not expecting any other injuries. I know Nick Jensen and Ridley Gregg did miss practice today, but they also missed practice before the previous game. I think they are dealing with some stuff, and Jensen's been banged up for an extended period of time. I wouldn't, I don't know what exactly he has, but clearly when the season is over, he's going to need an extended recovery. I don't know if he'll need a surgery because we don't know the exact detail of what it is. But yeah, Jensen hasn't been right, and him and Shabbat, who early in the season was, right up there doing really good work with Sanderson and Zoo for the Sens. They've struggled, and it's, I think, largely due to the fact that Jensen is not himself. So not getting Shabbat off the hook, but having a partner like Jensen, I think, has allowed Shabbat to be a little bit more loose. And I think because of that, the fact that Jensen's not being able to cover, his mobility is affected. So I think they need more of the Sanderson Zub. Actually, even the Clevin Matt and Paolo pairing has been pretty solid. If I'm Coach Travis Green, I'm probably playing them a little bit more tonight. So we'll see. Be interesting to see if the Sens can make a series of this and get back into it, or will the Leafs take a 3-0 stranglehold? Be interesting to see how things go as far as the Leafs invading the Sens arena. I know that typically does happen, but the Sens have had a lot of things in place to try to make sure that doesn't happen. We will be curious to see when the game hits TV here tonight for me, just how much blue is in the arena. We'll have to wait and see. One other quick note as well before we get into the trade rumors for the offseason. The Detroit Red Wings and head coach Todd McLellan, they're expected to make changes to their staff with the assistant coaches. Of course, you probably remember Derek Lalonde was the head coach when the season started. He was let go and replaced with Todd McLellan. So, of course, the associates and assistant coaches that are there were all people that were there to work with him and that he brought in. So, obviously, McLellan will probably get a say on having a few of his own people in the mix there. So, we'll probably get notice of that in the coming days of some assistant coaches that may not return. And I'm not sure how quickly they'll name the replacements, but we'll see on that. Now, as far as the offseason goes, like I said, it's lots of speculation building here. 16 teams are in offseason mode. We're bound to get our first elimination teams from the first round of the playoffs, probably by, possibly as early as the weekend, if not into the early part of next week here. So we're going to have more teams joining that group, and we'll be hearing, speculation about what they're expected to do. A big one, of course, the Pittsburgh Penguins. 3 straight years now out of the playoffs. Kyle Dubas has made some big moves and since during his short tenure there in Pittsburgh, but it has not paid off here as of yet. According to the fourthperiod.com, Dave Pagnotta, the Penguins are very likely to explore an Erik Karlsson trade this summer. Elliot Friedman also has reported the same sort of thing on the 32 Thoughts podcast, mentioning that he believes that there, at least it doesn't mean for sure it's going to happen because that is a little bit complicated because of his cap hit, but that Karlsson is a name that should be out there, and the Penguins are at least going to explore moving him. The problem is that he has a $10 million cap hit. His salary is even higher than that, 11.5. But the Sharks, of course, retained money when they traded him to Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh's going to have to retain some more on that to knock that down a little bit further. But the selling point here, I know what Elliot had brought up, is his contract actually, outside of the actual cap hit, is at a point now in the last 2 years it's not really that bad. He has a $5 million signing bonus due on July 1st. So when that is paid, his actual income for next season is not going to be that much. He only has, after that bonus is paid on July 1st, he only has $11 million left over the next 2 years. So from a cash perspective, it's not bad. I mean, he put up, 53 points this past year. A lot of teams would love to have, a 50, 60 point defenseman. I don't know that he's going to ever do 100 points again like he did a couple of years ago in San Jose. But, even a 50 to 60 point offensive defenseman is pretty darn good. And we know that he's a very gifted offensive player. Now, clearly there's some parts of his game that not everybody loves, and he's one of those high risk, high reward kind of D-man. So you have to have him with the right partner. You have to have him slotted right in your lineup. You don't want to rely on him too much. There's lots of things that go into that, right? So there's definitely teams out there that I think could benefit from having his services for sure. But it really is going to boil down to how much money the Penguins are willing to retain to knock that cap hit down, because there's not many teams that, even with the increase that we're getting in the salary cap for next season, are going to take on a $10 million cap hit on an aging defenseman. Obviously, like I said, he's been through a lot. He's had a great, successful career. I think at this point he would like to chase the Stanley Cup. And if really the Penguins look like they're nowhere near that, they're obviously going to be trying their best to be as competitive as possible during the final years of their star players that they've got under contract. They're, Malkin, Letang, Crosby. But, the belief is Malkin's probably only hanging around for one more year. And then Letang, of course, has got a lot of health issues. I mean, I know he's got a longer term on his contract, but how long of that is he going to play? We don't know. Crosby signed a 3-year extension this past offseason. So, he's under contract for a few years. I expect him to see that through. But, at what point is it possible that Crosby changes his mind at any point? It seems unlikely, but you just never know. But Carlson, on the other hand, could be a benefit somewhere else. I've heard the Dallas Stars and, could be a team to watch. That does make sense. They are certainly a very good team. You can certainly put them in the category of cup contender. Benefit for him in a no-tax state. So there's definitely, advantages income-wise that way. And we don't really know exactly what his preference is from a personal standpoint. Obviously, he's got a wife and children. They live in Ottawa in the offseason. I still don't know about a return to the Senators. I know Sens fans would, from a nostalgic point of view, love to see that. But, is he the best fit? If you take a look at the right side of their blue line, I just don't know. I mean, like I said, if they could get him cheap enough, maybe. But is he going to be a third pair defenseman? I don't see that. I mean, you don't really, I don't know. It just seems to me like it would be fun, but I don't know if it's the right person, the right time of his career, the right skill set for what they need. But we'll see. About, other teams that are out there probably would be more of an Eastern team that I would think that, besides Dallas, probably heading east, could a team like Florida or Tampa. I mean, he's great friends with Victor Hedman. So I don't know if they could make that work. That would be very challenging cap-wise. But again, those are some of the teams out there. But regardless, it's going to be complicated. The teams are involved here, along with the Penguins, are going to have to be very creative. So we'll have to see if things come about or not. But it's expected that they're going to be exploring it, and we'll see what happens. Now, Friedman was also talking about Jeremy Swayman recently, talking about how he doesn't know that the Bruins are going to be shopping him, but after we saw this Bruins end-of-season media conference yesterday, all the talks and comments and everything that they've made, Don Sweeney said he at this point he kind of expects Swayman and Korpisalo to likely be the goalie tandem next year. But they all know that the negotiations with Swayman were not good last year. We heard the comments from Cam Neely before he signed, clearly frustrated. Neely comes off, a little harsh sometimes. And, it can be tough to deal with for sure. So, I mean, I know that they didn't enjoy how things went. There was a lot of animosity between the two sides and how long that deal took to come together. A lot of people blamed the fact that he was late starting camp and everything on what kind of helped throw that season off the rails for the Bruins. Did it play a role? Sure. There was lots of other factors, though, and this team, to me, is just not constructed right now to be a contending team anymore. Like, they have some good pieces, like Charlie McAvoy, David Pastrnak, great players. Elias Lindholm hasn't lived up to the hype. I don't know that Zadorov has. I mean, there's parts of his game that you can see fit there, and there's parts of his game that you do like, but he's an overpaid player. I don't like the contract, but is their fit okay? Maybe if you slot it right. Anyways, like at the end of the day, the Bruins have a lot of work to do, I think, to get back to being contenders. They certainly made it sound like in their press conference that they are pretty confident they can flip a switch here and next year be contenders again. And I guess, to me, it just doesn't look that simple. I'd be quite surprised if that happens. And hey, if they do it, I'll be the first to eat my words and admit it. It just seems like there's a lot more work that needs to be done, that it can be done in 1 year. But at the end of the day, Friedman says that even if they don't shop him, which is not necessarily expected, that the Bruins are expected to get a lot of calls on Swayman, and they may have already started given the fact that they're out of the playoffs and into off-season mode here. This is based on how the contract negotiations went. Then he get what he wants, and then he comes in, he doesn't deliver, has a bad season. I'm sure there's probably a little bit of doubt there. Can he handle the workload? Did they make a mistake with the contract? There's all that kind of running through all of their minds as well. And there's a number of teams out there looking for goaltending, right? And, they might have seen enough good from Swayman in the past that they might be content to take that contract on if they could figure out a trade, especially if they can maybe have a solid backup with them to have a little bit closer to a tandem like he had with the Allmark there for a few years. So, I don't know. It doesn't mean that they're going to trade him, but according to Friedman, they're going to get lots of interest and have lots of opportunities to do so before his trade protection, of course, kicks in as well, which is a big part of that. The Bruins also, if he makes it to free agency, and that's a big if because I think he's probably not going to, but if Sam Bennett hits UFA status, a lot of people feel that it just makes too much sense that the Bruins need to target him. The way he plays like a Bruin. He was a thorn in their side for a few years in playoff hockey as well during the regular season. And hey, if you can get him to switch sides and we'll go there, I don't know if there's any chance of Marchand going back, but either way, a player like him would be a big help. It would improve their center depth, it could improve their scoring, add that tenacity that he brings. But again, no guarantees he even makes it there to even be an option for them. I think the Panthers are going to be pushing hard to keep him, and we'll see what happens. I think that's his first choice too. But again, we'll have to wait and see. And of course, in Vancouver, more talk. Of course, we talked a few times about the comments regarding Quinn Hughes from Jim Rutherford. And as everybody said here in the media recently, Jim Rutherford has been around the game so long that he's so well known. And he's known for these sound bites. He's known for speaking his mind. But he's also known for being extremely calculated and thought out ahead of time. And he's not going to go into a press conference like this without kind of not rehearsing, but having a bunch of talking points ready, rehearsed, and have a goal with what he wants to get out there. This is something that's been in JR's playbook for a long time. We've seen it numerous times, not only during his time in Vancouver, but before that when he was a Penguins manager, and even before that when he's with other teams before in Carolina, etc. So this is not surprising to hear some of the comments he made. And we've talked about the Quinn Hughes situation, but when it comes to Elias Pettersson, on the Donnie and Daly show, they interviewed Pettersson's agent, and they asked him if he thought Pettersson could be traded this year, and he said, yeah, it wouldn't really surprise him at all. It is a business after all, is kind of what he said. And, based on the vibe he gets from the Canucks, it wouldn't be shocking in the least. We know that Pettersson's trade protection kicks in July 1st. I think after this past year, they have a lot of concerns over whether or not they can win with him. They made numerous comments to the fact they really criticized his game, about his offseason prep, his practice habits, training. Can you win with a guy that described him more as a guy who likes to get his points more than a guy that, is a complete player, and saying he needs to be a complete player in order to have a chance to win and all that. They really broke down and criticized a lot of aspects of him as a hockey player, which to me isn't smart. If you're trying to trade the asset, you kind of want to build it up, not tear it down. So I'm not completely sold for sure that they want to trade him, but I think during the Miller situation, they definitely entertained trading Pettersson instead of Miller. There was lots of those confirmed rumors that they were taking calls on both players, and then it wasn't a given which one was going to go. It was unclear, but obviously Miller had trade protection. He agreed to go to the Rangers. Rangers gave them a deal they were okay with, and they made it happen. C'est la vie, it's gone, right? But after all that, if they were going to trade Pettersson, they need to be careful and make sure they get themselves a great deal. But like I've said before, there's teams out there I think would consider this. Of course, they're going to try to leverage what they're going to consider a bargain from Vancouver, given his down season. Would I be shocked if the Blackhawks were in there? No. Would I be shocked if the Islanders were in there? No. I mean, although the Islanders right now are in flux with waiting on a new GM, so that would have to be something that would wait for them until they get this new guy in place, whoever that's going to be, or new person. But obviously, there's other teams out there as well. But those are a couple teams that kind of come to mind right off the bat. There's a lot of teams that would have difficulty with the cap hit, of course, for Pettersson signing for a lot of money and has a lot of term. Obviously, I wouldn't completely rule out a team like Pittsburgh, but again, are they going to have the assets? There's lots of teams that are going to be interested. And there's a difference between being interested and having the assets to put together for a trade. It would be very complicated. A team like Chicago, though, I think would be well suited. And there was a rumor about Pettersson in Chicago like a year ago. Turned out not to be anything much to it at the time. That was before he signed the contract, but obviously we know the Blackhawks are a team that are looking to get better and looking to really drastically improve their team to be more competitive next year. So adding a player of his caliber would be a big move for sure. But again, we'll have to wait and see. But at the end of the day, are the Canucks really going to go from being a division champion into, a middle round of the playoffs to down in the dumps here, miss the playoffs this year, trade at JT Miller, lose Brock Besser to free agency, maybe trade Pettersson now, maybe be forced to trade Hughes in a year or two? What a collapse in Vancouver. And we don't know about Rick Tocchet either. It just seems like a lot of the points of that conversation between Rutherford and the media was to kind of set things up, not only set up for the possibility that Pettersson could go, Hughes could go, but around we could be facing some tough times here, and to kind of really temper the expectations for this team in the next couple of years. And if they can find a way to be better and to keep a few players around and improve the team, then they can exceed expectations, and maybe they'll be more favorably viewed by everybody instead of getting flack for the team missing the playoffs. I think they're kind of preparing fans that they could be facing some very uncertain times. So we'll see what happens. Let me know your thoughts on Pettersson, Swayman, the Penguins, and Karlsson, and everything else discussed here. Of course, let me know your thoughts on the playoff games down in the comments as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.